answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based.
Right. He is absolutely dead right. And I don't care how you try to spin it, you cannot deny those facts. You may not like RFK Jr., you might not like some of the ideas he has. I have some issues with some. But the same token, everything he laid out then was exactly right. We were misled from the beginning. It was a power grab by the left, and they thought, we've got you under our thumb, we're going to control. And the thing you mentioned about the cloth mask, let me remind you, when the COVID story first broke, the first response from Dr. Fauci was that, the masks aren't going to be needed, that's not a big deal. Then later said, yeah, you probably will need a mask. And then later said, but you get the shot, you won't need the mask. And then later, you might want to also get a booster shot. Oh, and you're probably going to need the mask again. You assume on some cases that we're past that. Are we not past it? I know some people, and I still see them. I see one guy in the poker room from time to time. And I tell him, I said, that does nothing good for you the way you're handling it. I'm talking about he's wearing a mask around his chin. Around his chin. And they'll take a drag off of his cigarette. He may or may not put the mask back on. There are folks that have just bought into this so much that they think, yes, this is what we're going to have to do, especially with RFK Jr. heading up our Health and Human Services Department. He was testifying before Congress yesterday, and they were doing everything they could to rip him apart. Well, we've got some answers, and we got more fire to come. Welcome to hour number one. Larry Connors, USA. Here we are on a Friday, September 5. Boy, this month is going to swing by in a hurry, so keep with us. And, of course, when we begin each program, I remind you, Larry Connors, USA has news, analysis, opinion, and education. When I finish this hour, you're going to know more than you do at this very moment. We make sure we load you with information. And the same will be for the second hour. And the second hour is not just a repeat of the first. It has some elements, but we go in different directions with it. And reminding you when we're on the air every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. You can watch the program. You go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Larry Connors, USA, Rumble, Facebook. And after each program, they go up as a podcast. You can listen later at your time. And it's interesting, I always see those numbers on podcast at one point in the day, and I look later and they jump 500% because folks make time later to pull up the program. And I understand. You have a life, you have a family. I certainly understand, but I truly appreciate by whatever means you choose to be listening when you do. Let me give you a preview of what we've got coming up for you today. Second hour. More details on how the Obama administration was involved in protecting Hillary Clinton. Yep, we'll get back into that. They want that to go away. No. We're not going to let that go away. Anything other than remind you that Hillary Benghazi Clinton made other mistakes and got away with it as well. Also, the second hour this morning on the Mike Ferguson Show, our NewsTalk STL host, Speaker Tim Jones, is in Dallas. at a Freedom Caucus gathering, and he was doing an interview with Mike this morning on what they hope to achieve with this Freedom Caucus. You will want to hear that interview coming up in our second hour if you missed it earlier today. Later this hour, how the left is losing its grip on women. Oh, and one other thing. You don't want to miss this one. How whiskey and some cigars might help solve world and national issues. Proof from last night, and I'm here to deliver it firsthand for you. That's coming up later. Now back to the attacks on RFK Jr. But before I do that, the remarks he made about the mask, how we were convinced he had to wear them, there was no scientific evidence, and even Fauci in the beginning said they would do nothing. And, of course, a cloth mask became a kerchief if you had one around your neck or a bandana. And then, of course, if you have a full human shield like you're in surgery. And remember the grocery stores? They were putting up these plastic barriers between you and the clerks because COVID was not smart enough to go over the top of the plastic or around the corner. California residents in Gavin Newsom's state, they have a new wave of coronavirus apparently hitting. And the Los Angeles Times is reporting a COVID wave is washing over California. The state seeing continued increases in the number of newly confirmed cases and hospitalizations. Some officials urging the public to take greater precautions. And once again, they're considering at the county level, urging residents you must wear masks in indoor public settings. This is your option, your decision. The problem we've had with the CDC and the NIH when we had it under Obama and what RFK Jr. is trying to change, you can take the shot or not take the shot. You can wear the mask or not wear the mask. It falls on you. If you get sick and die, that's you. If you get one of the shots and die because you were mandated to take it, that's not on you, but you were forced to do it. And some of the people that were trying to come up, not just in this hearing, but later, the leftist media is always good about carrying the water for whatever they're trying to do to destroy basic American rights and to control the American public. I submit to you the former Democrat National Committee Chair Howard Dean, because he was on MSNBC and got asked a question about RFK Jr.
Is RFK Jr. Fit for this job?
No, but he never was fit for the job. He's a crackpot. But here's the interesting thing about this. I've been thinking about this during the day. This is possibly the wedge issue that begins to literally divide the United States as a result of his nuttiness and as a result of the victims of his nuttiness, which are going to be children, lots of children. That the states on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, and California, have essentially put together their own CDC. I think New England's going to join them. Massachusetts has talked about it already. I wouldn't be surprised if New York and some other places like Pennsylvania joined them. So you're going to have essentially two authorities, the CDC run by a crackpot, and then you're going to have a lot of states ignoring the federal government and making their own rules about all this stuff. That is a big divide. And it's a big change in the way that government has been operating in the United States for the last 100 years.
That is correct, a big divide, and it's a big change from the last 100 years. And what else has happened over the last 100 years? Big Pharma did not have all the money it has now and has been giving to members of Congress. Perfect example, because they're going to do their bidding when it comes to Big Pharma if you give the money. OpenSecrets.org published this. Healthcare campaign contributions from 1990 to 2024. I think that's inside 100 years, is it not? You want to do the math for me? We'll call it. Bernie Sanders, at the top of that list, got from healthcare campaign contributions a total of $23 million. Pharmaceuticals, manufacturer groups, health insurance, HMOs, I mean, you go down the list. anything they could throw at him from health areas, they would do. You know who's number two? Number two is someone who called RFK Jr. a liar yesterday, and she's her own liar. She's a fake Indian, remember? Pocahontas. Elizabeth Warren is I said two. She's actually number three. $10 million from Big Pharma. Number two, since I mentioned it, Raphael Warnock of Georgia. My God, he hasn't even been in office that much, and he's accumulated $14 million. Now, you want to tell me who's a crackpot and who's selling out? Follow the money. Back to RFK as he's trying to testify yesterday in Congress.
During COVID, probably the most famous scientist on ACIP was Martin Kulldorff from Harvard, the great, world-renowned epidemiologist and vaccinologist. And he criticized the COVID booster mandates. They ejected him from COVID because he wasn't in the orthodoxy. The two biggest health officials at FDA during COVID, Dr. Gruber and Dr. Krause, criticized the Biden mandates, vaccine mandates. President Biden said in August, I would never take that vaccine, the Trump vaccine. And he came in, he mandated it, and then he fired the two top health officials at FDA who said, hey, this thing has not been properly tested.
You know, when RFK Jr. walked in that room, they were so anxious to have him, and they were going to rip him apart. Now, it's a bipartisan committee, but there are some Republicans in there, too, that may not be full Republican, but more rhino. But the bottom line is they know that, if people are frightened enough, we need to make sure we're on the correct side. And if it means more shots, closing things down, taking kids out of school, then maybe we should be over there. We're waiting to see which way the wind's going to blow the hardest. You, my friend, you, and those who think like you, and this program and all the other programs we have here on News Talk STL, we are the wind, and we will push the nation in the right direction. Do you want your children locked up again and deprived of an education and basically held hostage by the teachers' unions, which is what it would amount to? And I hate to say that because there are a lot of good teachers out there. They truly believe in educating, not indoctrinating, and therein lies the difference. And, of course, we're using more troops, so we're waiting for the latest word from Trump about troops into Chicago, Baltimore, maybe other cities. We're waiting to see exactly when and how that's going to happen. The roundups will be continuing. And, when you begin rounding up illegals at wherever you're going, often they're going to find them, if they're not on a work site, and even then it might happen, with guns, drugs. And when running them through the system, you find not just criminal abuse of others, but ungodly horrors against children. FBI Director Kash Patel.
1,500 kilograms of fentanyl is enough to kill 115 million Americans. 115 million Americans. Cops are getting after it. The FBI has arrested 19,000 people this year alone. Thanks to President Trump's administrations, that's double than where we were this time last year. And we have also arrested 1,600 people who have committed violent acts against children. 270 of them are human traffickers of children. Mr. President, this is what happens when you have great leadership at the Attorney General with Pam Bondi. Your administration's priority of protecting the homeland and protecting American citizens and protecting our children, and the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities.
Amen, amen, amen. That's Kash Patel talking about what we've rounded up and how we've taken crime off many U.S. city streets. Who would be against that? The thugs, the gangs, and the left. They want to act like, well, it's the National Guard troops. We're not going to stand for that. You were not going to stand for normal law and order when you were calling for defunding the police. You want us to forget that? We do not forget. We remember exactly where you stood. You won't remember, and you're hoping we don't remember, but you were about taking police off the streets long before Trump said, I'll send in the National Guard if I need to, and federalize them. And in D.C. now, not through the mayor, but the district court up there is trying to fight Trump back. I have a commentary running today about how some lower judges have been complaining that the high court doesn't have our back. They keep overturning our rulings. The gist of the commentary was they're not supposed to have your back. They're supposed to have the back of the American people, the U.S. Constitution. Sorry if you missed that commentary. They run every Monday through Friday, 7:30, 12:03, 3:30, approximate times in some cases. But they only run that day, and then the next day we're on to another topic. Which reminds me, the one coming up Monday might bring some memories back to you. You need to be listening to NewsTalkSTL on a regular basis. We've got great programming. And later I want to ask you a question. Now, one other thing, by the way, before I get away from RFK. He was asked yesterday, somebody was trying to pin him down saying that he was creating a hoax about COVID. He created the hoax. And they were asking him, did you see those women on the steps of the White House and the Capitol complaining that they were victims of Epstein? Do you think that was a hoax? He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see it. I don't know. And they got insane. You didn't see it? You didn't know it? Well, that word their analogy, because what they want to say, well, you're creating a hoax. They weren't, but he said, I didn't even know. That's not what I'm doing. And it had nothing to do with the topic. It's just another trying to jab. Later, do you want to punish illegals who come here for a better life? Do you want to punish them? Technically, they entered our nation illegally. But Biden said the borders were open. So millions swarmed across. Yes, it was illegal still then, but they came if you're going to open the border. We're going to go back to the Reagan years before we wrap up this hour and how immigration and amnesty, that dangerous A word, was handled during the Reagan years. But first, coming up, my guest will explain how the left has gone so far that they are actually losing their grip on women. Don't miss this. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge has some great news. The Speakeasy will now be open on Sundays, starting at 2. Open to the public. Great for those in the industry who'll want to enjoy a Sunday fun day. Plus, enjoy sushi and cocktails. What more could you want? You want to make sure you get the code. And how do you get the code to the Speakeasy? You go to the Facebook, Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I'll see you at Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
All my friends know the low rider. The low rider is a little higher.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
We're welcoming back a guest that I know you love to hear from, and we're glad to have her on board again. Dr. Gilda Carl, spokeswoman for the International Council of Men and Boys, author of the book, Real Men Don't Go Woke. Dr. Carl, welcome back.
It's so nice to be with you again.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot right away. Okay?
Okay. I can handle it.
The last time I had you on, I talked about the title of your book, Real Men Don't Go Woke, and I said, you need to add a subtitle, Real Men Don't Drink Whiskey Through Straws. Have you done that yet? Apparently not.
Actually, I have another subtitle.
Doctor, I'm glad to have you with us. We're talking earlier about, and I want to get into with you, that the left apparently is losing its grip on women. It's slipping, and gender politics are to blame. Help us understand this.
Well, they are telling us that there is oppressive patriarchy. I mean, are you familiar with that term, Larry?
Well, I was familiar with my dad and his paddle, yes, and his belt, but go ahead, yes. Go ahead.
Did you call that oppressive?
Well, at the time I considered it, but no, I counted it later. I remember one time mentioning, now I know, Dad, after I had children, what you mean that it hurts you worse than it hurt me. I thought, how could that be? And now I have done that with my children. I understand. He said, you remember every spanking I gave you, Larry? I said, every one. They said, good.
Ah, good father.
Yeah.
Okay, now I don't call that oppressive either. But the ladies are the feminists. I should clarify that. The feminists are saying that the studies, the people out there are not valuing women.
They can't even identify
say
sometimes what they are. Go ahead.
Well, okay, we could start with the Supreme Court justice who didn't know what a woman was.
Right.
So they're talking about a patriarchy being oppressive, and yet when we look at the studies, this is not even a question about this. If we go back to 1912, the Titanic, how many people lost their lives? 74% of the female passengers survived. Only 20% of the male passengers survived.
Right.
And then we're talking about the dangerous jobs that men take on. And it could be argued that sometimes they take them on because the men are chivalrous and they are looking to protect the women. First of all, I don't call that oppressive. Second of all, a lot of these jobs that they take on end in death for men. So we really can't say that patriarchy is oppressive. But, the feminists will cry about anything.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
And so as a grounded, real woman, as opposed to a feminist, I'm telling everybody that this does not exist. These are manufactured claims.
Well, you're throwing water into the face. You're throwing water. You're throwing water into the face of women who believe that there is gender equality at every level and all the time. That they're all one and the same.
Oh, right. And you should have 5 people who are working on the police force and 5 people who are working on the police force who are female. So we have equal numbers on everything. How is that possible in the world?
It's not.
Exactly.
In the U.S., there's a survey. In the U.S., there's a survey that said 76% of married mothers would prefer to work or either part-time or not at all. In the European Union, and here's the difference, in the European Union, 28% of employed women work part-time anyway, so they figure that they've got to be out there doing their part and being equal to the men. We used to have, and that's what's destroyed our nation, when it got to the point where both parents had to work and there's no one, you're back to latchkey children.
Yes. And you remember that term. I haven't seen that term recently. But you're exactly right. So kids are raising themselves. And the thought is that they're going to be using computers and iPads and all their technical devices as babysitters.
Yeah.
And yet nothing can substitute a real human mother or father being there with their children.
That's the point that I think has been lost. Just a child needs a bearing, a gravity, and a parent that can bring all that to them. And we're not talking about, hovering over them like the helicopter moms or things of that nature. We're talking about being there when they're needed and helping them work their way through life. And every child hits puberty and things go upside down for them.
Oh, yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm living that right now with triplet nieces who are 15.
Going on 40.
And they're having, oh my God. Well, their mother is going to be put out to pasture soon because she's losing her brain.
Well, that's the other part of parenting. I mean, you can't, and you have to make it clear to your kids, I'm not your friend. I want to be your friend and I love you, but we're not going to be best buddies probably because you're not going to get to do everything you want to do.
Oh, that is the biggest problem today in parenting. Parents think that they want to be friends with rather than friendly towards.
Right.
And let's get back to basics. All children need boundaries. And the funny thing, because I used to teach adolescent psychology, and the funniest thing about this is that when you tell a child no, the child interprets that as love.
Yeah.
And sometimes you are saying no because the kid doesn't want to say no to his or her friends. And this is an easy out for them. Oh, my parents won't let me.
It is true. I mean,
So
exactly. And I know one of my daughters use that often, that I cannot go out because my dad would kill me if he knew I was there. And I'm glad to hit them like that. The other part of that, and we're talking about, of course, how women have slipped out of the hands of the left because they would basically want them to be malleable and just go along to get along and not have anything distract you from becoming a liberal, Marxist, communist.
Good luck. I did a book signing last night for Real Men Don't Go Woke. And it was at a women's med spa in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, I should have been there.
It was packed.
Yeah.
And the women all want to be good parents. They may have careers of their own, but they're always looking to better themselves.
Good.
And what better role model is a parent who is looking to better herself?
I raised two daughters, and I wanted them to, eventually have a relationship with someone that would be loving and caring, but I never wanted them to be at a point where they would have to depend upon the man.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's the issue,
that's
too.
Right.
How many and that audience you had in Scottsdale last night for Real Men Don't Go Woke, what would you do the division as to male, female? There are only two genders.
Well,
by the way.
it was. Yeah, listen, Larry, I'm with you 100%. It's not the 74 that I report in Real Men Don't Go Woke.
Yeah.
But out of, the group was the book signing was advertised for women.
Right.
So we had about 3 or 4 men in attendance, but the majority of the women. The majority of the crowd was women.
Well, I'm glad the message got out. Yeah.
In tears when I talked about the male suicide rate.
Mm.
They had sons, many
Yes.
of them,
Right.
and they just couldn't believe it. And the last time, this was an encore performance for me, and the last time I was at this particular spa. For Real Men Don't Go Woke again. And I was talking about the suicide rate going down to young boys as young as 10. And then we all disappeared and we all, went home. And then the next day, one of the women reported that her best friend's 13-year-old son had committed suicide while we were talking about this very topic.
Dr. Gilda Carl, I appreciate you joining us again. Real Men Don't Go Woke. I'd like to book you for a future time.
Anytime, Larry. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Coming up, a flashback to when President Reagan signed what many said would be the last immigration amnesty ever. Well, that was before Joe Biden opened our borders. And how do you solve the current issue? Maybe grab a cigar and a whiskey. I'm serious. Get some serious talk done with a cigar and a whiskey. And a couple of friends and I did just that last night. Did we solve the immigration issue? That's still to come.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Hey, looking for windows that solve your problems and actually add value to your home? Renewal by Anderson. Anderson products increase your home value by at least 15%. Right now, get $329 off every window, $729 off every patio or entry door, and ask about our zero interest plan for 3 years. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. Renewal by Anderson has FiberX frames, 20% stronger than vinyl, built to last. It's why we have more 5-star reviews than anyone in St. Louis. And only Renewal by Anderson backs it up with the nation's best warranty. Schedule your complimentary consultation, rbastl.com, or call 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Must be the whiskey. I've been drinking to remember and drinking to forget. I love you on my mind. I got Jim Beam on my breath, and loneliness has got the rest. I've got nothing left within me. It must be the whiskey.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
This bill, the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, that I'll sign in a few minutes, is the most comprehensive reform of our immigration laws since 1952. It's the product of one of the longest and most difficult legislative undertakings in the last three Congresses. Further, it's an excellent example of a truly successful bipartisan effort. The administration and the allies of immigration reform on both sides of the Capitol and both sides of the aisle work together to accomplish these critically important reforms to control illegal immigration. Our objective is only to establish a reasonable, fair, orderly, and secure system of immigration into this country, and not to discriminate in any way against particular nations or people.
Ronald Reagan, 1986. And Obama has said it, Bill Clinton has said it, even Hillary Clinton said it. We are a nation of immigrants, but we also have a nation of laws, and there's a right way and a wrong way to enter the country. When he signed that bill in 1986, as you heard him point out, that was our first major reform since 1952, 54, something like that. 30-plus years. Look where we are now since that amnesty issue by Reagan at that point. We're well past that 30-year mark. And our situation with illegals got blown up when Joe Biden opened the border. Now, a new survey, a most recent survey from a Harvard-Harris poll, shows that Trump still gets strong support behind his policy of deporting illegals who have committed crimes. Key phrase there, who committed crimes. 80% approve. You break that down, 88% of Republicans are in that, and 80% of independents, 72% of Democrats support it. I support it, those who committed crimes. But those who came into this country, illegal as they were, but they were told the border is open, you have your family, you're down in the Triangle, Nicaragua, gangs everywhere. You want to get your family to a better place. You want to earn money for your family. You want a safer place. Every parent would want to, if you had a chance to come across the border then, you were going to use it. And, of course, now rounding them up, sending them back, we have an issue. How do we resolve it? Because if they've been here for many years and they haven't done anything, more importantly, what are they contributing to the economy, and what will we lose? We hear that from the left all the time. Who's going to do this? Who do they? They want to go back to the point these people are only good when it comes to basically making beds or something like that. Well, we know better than that. We know that's not true. What we do know is that we need to recalculate. So last night, I'll give you an example. On the rooftop, you know how you solve national world problems? I'm going to tell you right here. It happened last night. Well, if we put it in effect. But last night on the rooftop of the Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Colorville, yes, they are a sponsor. I don't try to slide that by you. But that's where we met. Chris Shreves, creator of that in the public schoolhouse in Colorville. And we met with Tom Shaw Jr. Shaw Dog, yeah, he was there. And yes, he's also a sponsor. We're smoking cigars, sharing some drinks, watching the sunset, beautiful sunset from the rooftop. And the immigration crisis came up in the smoke. What do we do about it? Because there are a lot of illegals in our country, came in illegally, but they have done nothing wrong. They got here and they went to work, found a job. They may have taken a job from an American who's already here because they're willing to work cheaper. We have to still deal with that issue. But we have a lot of Americans that just won't work. We know that because they've been on the government teat for decades, if not generations. They don't know what they need to work, or the only work they need to do is aim a gun at you and say, whatever you have, I'll take. And yes, there are some bad hombres in the illegals that came here. We vaporized some trying to leave Venezuela, bringing cocaine and drugs and more crime to our nation. What we were talking about, though, last night is when you have a family and you're in a bad situation, you want to improve it. You're going to take every opportunity, even if it makes a trek of 100, 200, 1,000 miles. If you can get your family there and get through then, get inside. And now Trump's trying to round everybody up, and some are living in fear, and I understand. We've got to have a defining line here. If they've been in country for a certain period of time and they have no felony, I'm not talking about a speeding ticket. I'm talking about a major crime issue against them. And they're not doing drugs or anything. I think those need to be identified and say, we're not going to go after you right now, but if you step across the line and create violence, we will be on your tail immediately, and you will be out, and your family. Because there are a lot of these families, and that includes their kids. Some kids brought across the border, they didn't have any choice. They were brought here by their parents. The so-called dreamers, as Obama referred to. Do you really have it in your heart to punish people if they're trying to make their lives better, as long as they're not hurting others? If they're actually going to come to our country, as they did in the old days through Ellis Island, come to make a better life and blend in and become part of our culture and adding their culture to it, to assimilate, not to destroy. Do you have it in your heart that those people are just bad? If you do, I'm gonna have to have you say, check yourself. There are a lot of them that are not. They took advantage of an opportunity that Joe Biden made. That's Joe Biden's mistake, and we're all paying for it. They took advantage of it, and yes, it's still illegal, but they took advantage of it. Wouldn't you, if you had the opportunity? I mean, you want to obey laws, right? But you also realize, if I can get by and I don't harm anyone, I saw a clip of video the other day. A trooper had stopped a truck driver. The truck driver, a grizzled guy, sitting up in his truck, looking down at the trooper, bringing out his license to show him. And the trooper says, "Sir, didn't you see the red light?" He said, "Yeah, I saw it." He said, "Well, then why did you run it?" "I didn't see you." Perfect. If I'd seen you, I wouldn't have run the red light. These people at the border had never been open like it is. They would not be here. They would be on that list of trying to come into our country legally, maybe. And every year we import 1 million migrants. But if they're here and they're doing a job, and this is where this really comes down to, if they're here and they're not causing crime, they're contributing, they're working at a plant, then maybe the plant or whoever is hiring them, they need to come forward and identify, look, I've got 20 illegals here that came through the Biden thing. I will sponsor them so they can stay here and do the job and keep my business going. Now, there will be some Americans say, well, I want that job. Well, it was there before they got here. You weren't looking for it then. And a lot of jobs are going to be changed with AI coming in. Not going to destroy all the jobs, but there'll have to be some re-education, retooling at different levels. But some things are still going to be manual. It's not like you had to harvest your hay by workers going to the field anymore. Now you got combines and everything else that you can have. So that was just like AI at that point. It took a lot of jobs. And it took it from a lot of the poorer community because they were the ones doing the job. A lot of these people come in here, they can contribute to our society if we give them the opportunity. And I want them identified as being here, quote, as illegal coming in. But as long as they're staying inside the law, and then maybe set up a system where they have to make payments of a certain amount to their state or the federal government. There are a lot of things to work through, but bottom line is, are you going to persecute and prosecute families, husbands, parents just trying to find a better life for their kids and punish a family? And they're doing nothing to you. Now, if they're flooding our schools and sucking up all the welfare, well, they're not going to get any welfare benefits. They're not going to get that. Education is one thing they will get. And yes, if they need medical care, we want to make sure of that. This is not becoming a Marxist communist approach. It's a humane approach. And it's good for the businesses where they are being used and employed. If you're an American, you've been here all these years, and they took a job away from you, well, then I will side with you, too, that shouldn't happen. But from everything that's been documented and presented, a lot of Americans weren't doing the job and wanting it anyway, or they would have already had it. And you can't have the employers undercutting American wages to hire the illegals. But they do have to be responsible for them here and identify them and basically become their sponsor at that point. And there does have to be a payment system that would help pay for taxes and eventually get them to a point where they are contributing to their own welfare and health by their job and maybe moving closer to some way down the road, a chance to actually work for Social Security benefits. A few whiskeys and a few cigars can't solve everything, but it is worth considering that if we quit shouting at each other and sit down and discuss it, there are a lot of things we could do. Do you think Reagan really wanted to go down as the president, signing off on that? It was a very contentious thing at that time. And with his act of 1986, 3 million illegals suddenly were no longer considered illegal. 3 million. If we only had 3 million to deal with now, that wouldn't be bad. But we've got 14, 15, 18 million because Joe Biden opened the border. Thank you, Joe Biden. And it wasn't just people coming here to be part of our nation. They're coming here to rape, torture, kill, steal, and destroy our nation. We haven't gotten to the terrorists that came in during that wave. We need compassion. We need humanity. But we still have to have law and order. Can we not find a balance? The left is always looking for a way to attack Trump. And, of course, the legacy media often willingly carries the water. The Stephen Colbert Show, I've never seen it, never will, and it's scheduled to go off the air soon anyway, being canceled. But he wants to go out with some fiery rhetoric, his rhetoric when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
Yesterday, Trump also posted, Chicago is the worst and most dangerous city in the world by far. Worst and most dangerous? 2 words. You.
They loved it. Just like the other day when he said, well, there's a report that he's been missing. He might be dead. And they all yelled. I said, yeah, but the fact is he's still alive. And they booed. That is a hate that is so deep. It's now part of their DNA. I mentioned earlier about some new surveys out on Trump. There's a JAL Partners poll that shows Trump's currently has a 55% approval rating. 55%. The co-founder of this survey, and published in the Daily Mail, this is the highest approved figure we have ever shown for Donald Trump. He added that the poll of these voters, who was conducted from August 21st through September 1, has a 3.3% margin of error. When you're at 55%, that's not even close. He added, it might seem surprising, but this news cycle has been ace for the president in recent days. His crime surge in D.C. is backed by the public, and economic news has been positive. And again, he got the highest approval rating numbers on immigration and how he's dealing with it. In our next hour, because we never stop teaching, as I said, you're going to get news, opinion, analysis, and education. We're going to continue the education part as well, looking at where we are in this nation and those who are still trying to tear us apart by pushing lies. We're going to call them out. Remember our pledge. One nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help. Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40. 314-644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545. 636-689-0545. Or visit priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
1,500 kilograms of fentanyl is enough to kill 115 million Americans. 115 million Americans. Cops are getting after it. The FBI has arrested 19,000 people this year alone. Thanks to President Trump's administrations, that's double than where we were this time last year. And we have also arrested 1,600 people who have committed violent acts against children. 270 of them are human traffickers of children. Mr. President, this is what happens when you have great leadership at the Attorney General with Pam Bondi. Your administration's priority of protecting the homeland and protecting American citizens and protecting our children, and the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities.
Kash Patel, FBI Director. Those are astonishing numbers. And I'm very impressed by 4,000 children rescued from who knows what hell they were going through. And 1,600 child predators arrested. And Patel declared no predator is out of reach, no child will be forgotten. Does anyone out there on the left want to stand up and say, oh, no, children should be allowed to be preyed upon? You do accept that theory when you say it's all about we have no issue with children being groomed or talked into changing their gender. You do accept that stuff. And that's a shame that you think it's okay to prey upon children like that. If every member of the left that is willing to accept the fact that children should have a right to change their gender, those speaking now, that back when they were growing up, that was no such thing. It was, quote, not science, obviously, nor is it now. What's changed? What's changed is partly Trump and partly just a defiance, like, we will make the rules and control society. Ain't going to happen. That's why we have the Second Amendment, if needed, and why we also have the First Amendment, which gives you rights to do things that I would not like you to have a right to do so, but it is protected speech unless you are inciting violence. And even then, if you're going after Jews and you're a Jew hater, apparently people say that's acceptable. No, it's not. Welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. Here we are, September 5, 2025, and reminding you with Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education in every program. Be ready to take notes because we got a lot of information still to come. If your notepad got filled up in the last hour, grab something to write on. Look, we take pride in pushing the education part as well. And if you did miss the last hour, shame on you. But I know it happens. But you missed our story about Ronald Reagan and the great Immigration Amnesty Act. Then and where we are now. And how a few cigars and good whiskey might help solve the world crisis in some cases. Or maybe not. But at least you get good smoke and drink. By the way, folks always asking, how do I find your program? I said, just remember Larry Connors USA. You search anything for Larry Connors USA, you're going to find it. You'll find the station, in case you can't remember, NewsTalkSTL. I know you can. You Google that, you'll find everything. I could give you the numbers, 101.9 and 94.1. You'll probably forget that. That's understandable. But you don't forget NewsTalkSTL. You don't forget Larry Connors USA. And think of Larry Connors USA as LaCusa. That's my boss name in politics now, LaCusa. I say politics. I saw Jerome give me a look. What do you mean politics? I meant poker. Although sometimes I'm playing politics with them. Offering them a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little seltzer in the pants, whatever. Reminding you also, if you miss any program, you can pull it up as a podcast. You go to News Talk STL, remember that. Larry Connors USA, Facebook, LarryConnorsUSA.com. And also reminding you, when we're on the air, like you're listening right now, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. We make it engaging. We're not just here to watch the paint dry. There was a survey I was referring to in the previous hour. There's several parts of it, but this one particular part. A Harvard-Harris poll back in June, now we're a long ways from June, when you go to polling, showed Trump at his highest approval rating regarding the issue of immigration. When it came to the economy, 44% approval. You compare that to Biden at 37%, and how he got that, I have no idea. But when you come to the other issue, overall, a JL Partners survey shows Trump with a 55% approval rating, as reported by the Daily Mail. And the co-founder of JL Partners said, this is the highest approval figure we have ever seen for President Trump. Well, that sounds like everything is really going strong. But I hear a voice in the wilderness, and I mean really in the wilderness. Former Senate leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky. I said farmer, and he is farmer, but I'm not sure if he knows that he is. He is saying, I think the U.S. is in a better position without Trump. That's really what it comes down to. He would not reject the failed Biden presidency, attacking Trump, and refuses to say Americans are better off under Trump than they were Biden. Now, I do not hide anything from you. And I want you to know this. It came right from me. If anyone says, where did you get that? It came from Larry Connors. And I'm quoting sources because I always want to give you the source. Our employment numbers are worse than what we had reported. There's been another reevaluation. This means a lot of people are going to say, we're losing jobs because of Trump and the tariffs. The tariffs haven't really even gone into effect when you get down to it. But they're looking for any kind of scapegoat. But it is true that we've had jobs not measure up to what we were told they were. In fact, they actually were down. And the left is going to make as much hay as they can on that. That's understandable. That's what they do. Actually, it's not. They take chicken salad and turn it, well, they try to take chicken something else and make it chicken salad. And what they want you to always forget is what was going on during the Obama administration and the Biden administration. Speaking of the Obama administration, new information is coming out because this Justice Department is going to get to the answer a lot of things about Hillary Clinton and how she abused her authority and how she was hiding and scheming behind the scenes and sending information over an unverified network that she had set up in her own computer in her home, maybe the bathroom. I could care less where. But Fox News says there are more things coming on that story.
About what the Obama Justice Department ordered federal lawyers to do and not to do concerning the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge tells us in sworn testimony on Capitol Hill, one of the insiders told lawmakers what she was told.
During closed-door testimony last summer, former FBI lawyer Lisa Page said the Obama administration's Justice Department advised the FBI not to pursue the gross negligence statute for Hillary Clinton in the mishandling of classified information. Former U.S. Attorney and House Republican John Ratcliffe led the line of questioning about the statute, known as 18 U.S.C. 793. Ratcliffe, you're making it sound like it was the department that told you you're not going to charge gross negligence because we're the prosecutors. Page interrupted. That is correct. Page's testimony appears to conflict with then FBI Director James Comey's recommendation in July 2016 against criminal charges for Clinton.
What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear.
I want to remind you that Bill Clinton met with the Attorney General on a plane parked on the tarmac in Arizona. And then she told Comey basically, whatever you decide, I've got to recuse myself because it looks bad that Bill Clinton's on the plane talking to me when he knows his wife is under investigation by our department. So she washed her hands of it. See, Comey, it's your decision. Comey doesn't make that decision. The prosecutor does. But Comey said, we did everything above board and we decided there's no reason to prosecute. This investigation is going to fire back up again. Georgia Congressman Collins.
The transcript releases show an inherent two-tier system, one in which Hillary Clinton gets the treatment that she got, where there was actually at first concern that they were going to charge her, and then with Loretta Lynch in charge, before she recused herself, made it very clear that that was not going to happen.
The tip-off came from a chart drawn up by federal investigators assigned to the Clinton case known as mid-year exam. Fox News has confirmed that the chart listed possible federal statutes for prosecution. Next to gross negligence was a notation, quote, DOJ not willing to charge this. Only known cases are military, cases when accused lost the information. In response to the Page revelations, the president tweeted the transcripts, quote, make the Obama Justice Department look exactly like it was, a broken and corrupt machine.
Exactly. Obama's no longer in the White House, Larry. Why are you doing it? Why am I doing it? Because the stuff he put into play is still being carried out. Even inside the Trump administration, they exist. The critters are still there. You're going to need a bigger exterminator. Trump's doing the best he can, but you're going to need a bigger. There was a congressional exchange between Congressman Tim Kaine and Senator Ted Cruz at the crux of the issue that they were arguing is actually God.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
So Senator Kaine said in this hearing that he found it a radical and dangerous notion that you would say our rights came from God and not from government. I just walked into the hearing as he was saying that, and I almost fell out of my chair. Because that radical and dangerous notion, in his words, is literally the founding principle upon which the United States of America was created.
The law written by man with God's hand on his shoulder. But they want to wipe God out of our culture. And I don't care what your religion is, who you pray to, who you believe in. They want to get rid of everything. Now, if you're one of those who don't want to believe in anything bigger than yourself, so be it. What makes more sense? That there is a creator that put all this together, or everything you have and see around you just all kind of happened because some kind of Big Bang explosion and it created all this stuff? What sounds more unbelievable? Senator Cruz continued to go after the Senator Kaine.
Senator Kaine said in this hearing that he found it a radical and dangerous notion that you would say our rights came from God and not from government. I just walked into the hearing as he was saying that, and I almost fell out of my chair because that radical and dangerous notion, in his words, is literally the founding principle upon which the United States of America was created. And if you do not believe me, and you made reference to this, Mr. Barnes, then you can believe perhaps the most prominent Virginian to ever serve, Thomas Jefferson, who wrote in the Declaration of Independence, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator, not by government, not by the Democratic National Committee, but by God."
Point made. Hammered home. Yes, men do the bidding of God, and sometimes not. But as Thomas Jefferson pointed out, all men are created equal. God uses men for various purposes. If you read back to the Old Testament, you find cases where God used men to destroy his own people, always leaving a remnant. But you go through the prophets from Jeremiah to Hosea to Ezekiel, you'll find cases where God basically said, you turn your back on me, I turn my back on you, you will pay the penalty. Death and famine for you and your family. And fathers will eat their children, and children will eat their fathers. I always had a hard time growing up as to how some people were fearful of God. I thought you should love him. Why are you fearful? Well, it's an understanding now that I have that you have to understand respect and authority. Senator Tim Kaine is lost in the wilderness. So a man wrote down on the Constitution or our program or our Constitution and other items, a man actually did it, but you want to take God out of the equation. Not going to happen. Coming up, News Talk, Tim Jones was on the Mike Ferguson Morning Show, gathering in Dallas for Freedom Caucus fighters. I want you to hear that interview in case you missed it earlier. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington. always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is Silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. I've got a great evening planned for you. We start with dining at the Oak Street Inn Lounge in Cottleville. We enjoy sunset on the rooftop, then down to the Speakeasy. Just one visit, you're going to see why I'm always talking about the Oak Street Inn and Lounge. Plus, you might want to plan a staycation, a romantic getaway. Check out OakStreetInnandLounge.com for various events this summer. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
And where down we go, where down we go, so where down we go, way down we go.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I'm at the second annual State Freedom Caucus Summit. This is the collection of the 13 Freedom Caucus states around the country. We have the original U.S. House Freedom Caucus, which is made up of great congressmen and women, many of whom are going to be swinging by here over the weekend. And about 4 or 5 years ago, a fellow by the name of Andy Roth, who used to run the Club for Growth Foundation, was approached and asked to create an incubators of freedom and liberty all over the country. And so we were very excited and thrilled to be asked a couple of years ago to launch a Freedom Caucus here in Missouri. We had all the makings of it because we have a strong conservatarian movement here in Missouri. We always have had that. It is exemplified by the state representatives and senators that are elected by our voters. And, we stand on the great shoulders of people like former state senator, now Congressman Bob Onder, now Congressman Eric Burleson, Bill Eigel, Denny Hoskins, and so many others. And I could go even further back to my time, not in the Stone Ages, a mere 10 years ago when we had people like State Senator Jane Cunningham and Jim Lemke and others, Jason Crowell from Southeast Missouri. So we've always had that strain, and thank goodness, right? Because, Mike, the whole point of the Freedom Caucus is to be the true North Star and the conservative conscience of Republican majorities and supermajorities, many of whom, I got to be honest, have completely and utterly lost their way as they have gotten fat, lazy, and happy. They've become the establishment. And so the Freedom Caucus is designed to steer them back on course, just like the U.S. House Freedom Caucus does in the U.S. Congress.
Okay, so is this about a line of defense for freedom, or is this about being the conscience of the Republican Party?
I think it's both. I think it is to play defense where necessary to stop the bad bills and the bad ideas, plenty of which run raging across state capitals. We see all this stuff on the national level. So for everybody who, and we cover the national stuff, right? We have to, we need to, we should. But everything we're seeing on the national level, it has corroborating examples in the states. The same kind of stuff. There's big spending Republicans here in the states. There's the Rhino Republican establishment here in the States. It's the group that either doesn't want to do the right thing, like passing initiative petition reform should have been done years ago, shouldn't have required a special session. Glad that the Freedom Caucus was the first group in Missouri to call for that to be added to the redistricting call. It's also to advance good public policy, Mike. We're not just supposed to be the Dr. No police. We're also supposed to advance good public policy, and we do. The Freedom Caucus in Missouri has advocated for tax cuts for all Missourians, more liberty and freedom for all Missourians, more school choice options for all Missourians, reducing regulations for all Missouri small business owners and families and farmers. So stop the bad stuff, play the good defense, but also advocate, have a message, have a mission. You know, it's limited government, free markets, federalism, like my good friends at ALEC would say. That's kind of the general attitude of the Freedom Caucus as well, the North Star, the conservative conscience.
Okay, so obviously every state's got different debates and different battles and things, but are there any underlying similarities when it comes to freedom-oriented policy that the Freedom Caucus members are seeing around the country? Because, I mean, you know, pick any state in the country, they're going to have a different set of issues than we're going to have in Missouri or that's going to be in Illinois or anything like that.
Absolutely. The one overriding, if there was one top line mission and public purpose, it would be reining in out of control state spending. Mike, as you know, the Missouri budget has ballooned in the last 12 years. When I left the legislature in 2015, barely 10 years ago, our state budget, annual budget, fiscal year, June to June, all federal, all state money was around $26 billion. You know, not chump change. It's now over $52 billion. I would ask all Missourians, have your wages doubled in the last 10 years, right? Do you have twice as much of everything? Are we getting twice as much of the services from the state government? I think the answers to all those questions would be no. Mike, that happens in every state capital. Republicans don't do big government any better than Democrats, and oftentimes we do it worse because it's not in our nature. So Republicans kind of ham-fistedly fumble and stumble and make excuses about why state spending goes up every single year. They all just vote yes on the budget bill. So that's the first thing we start with, is because, you know, Mike, where does the power for any government come from? Well, it comes from the legalized thievery, the taxation of the people. And we're not against all taxes anytime, anywhere. We're not anarchists, right? But in all states, the budgets have ballooned, the services have not followed suit, and most state residents are poorer for all the excess in state spending that's resulted. So budget austerity, budget responsibility, reining in out of control spending, reversing the gravy train. That is the number one priority of the 13 state freedom caucuses. And by the way, Mike, your buddies from the Illinois Freedom Caucus asked me to say hello to you. We had dinner with them last night. They love coming on NewsTalkSTL.
Yeah, I imagine that Colin and all those guys are probably there, I would think.
They're all here.
Oh, man, well, that's good to hear. I was about to ask you about that. Okay, so then when you and the Missouri Freedom Caucusers and the Illinois Freedom Caucusers leave this summit in Dallas, what are some of the things that you're hoping to bring back and that they can bring back to the legislatures to actually advance the fight for freedom? And obviously, it's even more of an uphill battle on the Illinois side.
Yeah, truly neat. Well, first of all, Mike, inspiration and kind of a renewal of spirit, right? Because sometimes it's tough to be in a Freedom Caucus. It's tough to be at the tip of the spear. Sometimes it's a little lonely. That's why the Freedom Caucuses were created, so we can look for our brothers and sisters in freedom and liberty. We're going to be inspired, I know, tonight and tomorrow by some amazing speakers throughout the weekend. Governor Ron DeSantis, who many may have forgotten.
I know this.
Original member.
Yep, he was one of the founders. He was one of the founders. Yeah, he was a founder of the original Freedom Caucus. Yeah.
Yes. Governor Ron DeSantis from the free state of Florida coming over here to his competitor. You know, Florida and Texas love to compete. That's what it should be all about, right? It should be about private industry and American entrepreneurs competing. And boy, do they know that in the Sunshine State. So he's going to be here. And to talk about one of the top issues that continues to plague the nation, Tom Homan is going to be here to talk about illegal immigration and all the efforts that the Trump administration are doing to protect and secure the safety of all Americans. So Ron DeSantis, Tom Homan, and then a whole a whole cavalcade of folks from the U.S. House Freedom Caucus are going to be here, many of whom are running for statewide offices now back in their states. Chip Roy, who's running for Attorney General here in Texas, will be swinging by. Ralph Norman, who's running for governor in North Carolina, I believe, or South Carolina. And who else is going to be? Oh, Byron Donalds, running for governor in the great state of Florida. So we're going to have all those folks. Mary Miller from over in Illinois will be here, and so many others. So we're going to take inspiration, and finally, Mike, we're going to take ideas. We're going to have a lot of practical nuts and bolts seminars. We're going to compare best practices, what's been working in the 13 Freedom Caucus states, what needs improvement, and where do we go from here next year. And finally, Donald Trump and the Trump White House has been a true friend of the Freedom Caucuses, and we definitely have a leg up here in Missouri because we got Will Scharf and we got Alex Meyer at the upper echelons of the Trump White House paying very close attention to what the Missouri Freedom Caucus and the other Freedom Caucuses are doing. The federal government, the folks running the federal government now thankfully know that the solutions are not in D.C., they're in the states. And so that's why the Department of Intergovernmental Affairs, run by Alex Myers, a Missourian, has been working very closely with us to do everything we can to remove barriers and to increase peace and prosperity, not only on the national level, but definitely on the state level as well, where the power is truly a lot closer to the people.
Well, and all those names before you add Andrew Bailey into the mix at the Department of Justice.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Missouri, we often are the butt of jokes. We're out here in flyover country. We're just a bunch of hillbilly hayseeds and all that. I tell you, pound for pound, I bet the percentage of Missourians serving in the White House has got to be near the top, and we should all be very proud of them and the fact that they're being recognized on a national level. And we'll hopefully eventually all come back home and bring all that energy and that wisdom and that intelligence and expertise, back here to the Show Me State.
Great point. That's the interview with Speaker Tim Jones with the Tim Jones Chris Arps program. He's in Dallas at the Freedom Caucus gathering. The interview he did this morning with Mike Ferguson on the Mike Ferguson Show, I wanted to make sure you heard that. There's a lot of information inside there about what's happening and where it's going to go. And it's all taking place in this gathering in Texas. And the Democrats, in the meantime, they're absolutely confused. I'm looking at a piece from Politico. Let's put this against the backdrop of what you were hearing. The writer points out that since the disastrous results of last November, Democrats are absolutely brooding over why we can't appeal to people. We're failing across the board. And somebody said, well, it's because you become a bunch of Ivy League grads talking to a bunch of Ivy League grads. That's a Democrat consultant. And also adding, you guys want to be authentic? You can't be authentic. They say you have a bunch of Democrats who are very good at speaking a bunch of different languages. Human isn't one of them. Oh, boy, that's fact. So what they're suggesting, show up at more gun shows and tractor sales and mud races and trying to make yourself look authentic. Authentic Americans and conservatives will spot you a mile away. You might as well come with your pants down. Coming up, the difficulty that continues to face RFK Jr.,
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545. 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545. 689-0545. Or go direct, priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. Hey, looking for windows that solve your problems and actually add value to your home? Renewal by Anderson. Anderson products increase your home value by at least 15%. Right now, get $329 off every window, $729 off every patio or entry door, and ask about our zero interest plan for 3 years. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. Renewal by Anderson has FiberX frames, 20% stronger than vinyl, built to last. It's why we have more 5-star reviews than anyone in St. Louis. And only Renewal by Anderson backs it up with the nation's best warranty. Schedule your complimentary consultation, rbastl.com, or call 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service.
You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is NewsTalk STL.
Well, I walk into the room, passing out $100 bills, and it kills and it thrills like the horns on my Silverado grill. And I buy the bar, double round the crown, and everybody's getting down in this town. Ain't never gonna be the same. 'Cause I saddle up my horse and I ride into the city. I make a lot of noise, 'cause the girls, they are so pretty. Riding up and down Broadway on my old stud Leroy, and the girls say, save a horse, ride a cowboy. Everybody says, save a horse, ride a cowboy.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start. It wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based.
He's absolutely right about that point. Same thing as Sam Page did in St. Louis County, ordering all restaurants to shut down because we can't have people commingling, even if they have a mask, even if they've gotten the shots. And none of it really had a scientific base. We know that now. We suspected it then, and some were absolutely shouting from the rooftop, this is not true. But they were considered confused people. And when we shut our schools, the only silver lining that came out of that is children doing viral learning, which is not a very good idea anyway, is that parents began to see what the teachers were actually giving their children. It was not education, it was indoctrination. That blew up in their face. But just dealing with the COVID issue, that was RFK Jr. yesterday testifying before Congress. And there were those that wanted to rip him apart. They tried everything they could to make it appear that he was a liar and that he's jeopardizing our nation. As he said, the whole process was politicized. We were lied to about everything. We were lied to and were told again and again vaccines would prevent transmission. Even the drug companies never said this will stop COVID. They never said that. And they were always looking at an experimental drug analysis so they could be free of any repercussions and lawsuits. But on that panel yesterday questioning him were two senators, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Fake Indian Warren. You know why they're raising so much noise about why we should have more big pharma involved in your life and in your children's life? Let me give you a couple numbers here, and you tell me where the push of the pressure is. I'll let you make up your own mind. And you don't always have to agree with me. I know some of you don't. That's fine. But I always try to give you a source where you can check the information and see if I lied to you. I won't, but I can make mistakes. I think I made one back in 1982. I do remember that one. I might have made a mistake when I did the Obama interview. No, I like that mistake. I'll live with that one. But there's a group called OpenSecrets.org tracking healthcare coverage campaign contributions from 1996, 1990 to 2024. And the total amount brought in for some of the senators from pharmaceutical groups and their health products, pharmaceutical manufacturing, health insurance, HMOs, hospitals and nursing homes, medical surgical device, medical societies, nursing associations, all that come together in those years from 1990 to 2024. At the top of the list of receiving money is Senator Bernie Sanders, $23 million. $23 million. Do you think that swayed any of his positions regarding health care in our country? You and what they want to do with you? Number 2 on the list, Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock. And he has been really busy. In the short time he's been in the Senate, he's really been pumping everywhere he can. He's at $14 million. He doesn't go back near as far as Bernie, and he's already got $14 million at last report. But number 3 on the list was also on that committee yesterday, Elizabeth Fake Indian Warren, $10 million. $10 million. I ask you again, I submit to the court, do you think the money going into their pockets had anything at all to do with their decision-making and who they're supporting? Or were they really there to watch out for you and the American public? Did you give something like $10 million to Elizabeth Warren? You didn't? Oh. That might have changed some votes, you think? Let's go back to RFK Jr. in testimony before the committee yesterday.
During COVID, probably the most famous scientist on ACIP was Martin Kulldorff from Harvard, the great, world-renowned epidemiologist and vaccinologist. And he criticized the COVID booster mandates. They ejected him from COVID because he wasn't in the orthodoxy. The two biggest health officials at FDA during COVID, Dr. Gruber and Dr. Krause, criticized the Biden mandates, vaccine mandate. President Biden said in August, I would never take that vaccine, the Trump vaccine. And he came in, he mandated it, and then he fired the two top health officials at FDA who said, hey, this thing has not been properly tested.
There was data he had that he read to members of Congress. In 2002, the CDC did an internal study at Fulton County, Georgia, looking at children who got the MMR vaccine on time compared to those who got them late for whatever reason. Are you listening? Are you listening? The data from that study showing black boys, somebody want to play the race card here? That's not where we're going. They're victims. Black boys who got the vaccine on time had a 260% greater chance of getting an autism diagnosis than children who waited. In other words, if the kids didn't get their vaccine right away, they had less chance of being put on the autism spectrum, which is another way Big Pharma gets parents and their kids linked up to pony up. And the way the coverage has been for Kennedy and his statement, he did say at one point, well, in fact, at his first press conference as health secretary, we have to recognize what we're doing, or we're doing this to our children, and we need to put an end to it. So one news source said he's blaming parents for their children's autism, and they're responsible for researching every aspect of their children's lives that could affect their development. And he did tell parents on a Dr. Phil McGraw interview, parents, quote, need to do their own research when it comes to vaccinating the children. Obviously, I will be the first to claim and admit I'm not qualified to do that research. I had to rely on others. That's how the CDC got its grip on me and my family, the nation, and the NIH. And your doctors, the AMA. They all supposedly are the experts, but they're peddling pseudoscience in some cases. And I'd hate to be a parent raising a child now, because who are you going to believe? We had a great pediatrician that I loved, and my girls loved him. They loved him so much that as they got older, he said, you got to leave my practice. I cannot take you anymore. You reached an age where you need to see another doctor. They didn't want to leave him. But we don't have that kind of trust right now in the CDC and the NIH, even though we have a new administration, because there are a lot of things still inside that have to be done with. And the legislators are taking all this big pharma money. They figure if we can destroy RFK Jr., we can notch our belt with a win against Trump. And according to one survey, and I don't have it here in front of me, so I could be off on the percentage, but he is the best liked member of the Trump cabinet. They rank it by unfavorability. Hegseth, Noem, they're not as liked as much as RFK Jr. They're in the teens and plus. He's apparently was at 7%, which means he is the best liked member of the Trump cabinet. But the left sees if we can get him to throw him overboard, and they're going to continue to work, and they may do it. And now, why would so many like him more? Maybe because they think whether or not I can fully trust, he seems to be arguing for our kids, and a lot of the stuff he has said came true. But the left is making RFK a target. If we can just force Trump to cut him, it will undermine everything.
Is RFK Jr. Fit for this job?
No, but he never was fit for the job. He's a crackpot. But here's the interesting thing about this. I've been thinking about this during the day. This is possibly the wedge issue that begins to literally divide the United States as a result of his nuttiness and as a result of the victims of his nuttiness, which are going to be children, lots of children. That the states on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, and California, have essentially put together their own CDC. I think New England's going to join them. Massachusetts has talked about it already. I wouldn't be surprised if New York and some other places like Pennsylvania joined them. So you're going to have essentially two authorities, the CDC run by a crackpot, and then you're going to have a lot of states ignoring the federal government and making their own rules about all this stuff. That is a big divide, and it's a big change in the way that government has been operating in the United States for the last 100 years.
That's Democrat National Committee Chair, former Chair, Howard Dean, also former presidential candidate. And it is a big divide and a big change compared to 100 years ago. And the monies I was listening to, the big pharma spends on senators, that's a big change over the last 100 years. I cannot tell you if this is going to work out for the better or worse if we dismantle CDC and start it over, NIH, whatever we do with it. And I will agree if we have multiple states and their health departments and policies, it's going to be really bad all over. I will agree with that. But at the same time, I don't want a big mama, big brother that's going to tell me it must be done this way or you'll be paying a penalty. We just want honesty. But how are you going to get it from a government like the leftovers of the Obama and Biden administration? They went so far in the Biden administration to get into the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms and Explosives on a firearm transfer form, 4473. If you were going to transfer your gun to someone, you had to list it. And you had to list your gender. And the form had male or female. But during the Biden administration, it went so far as to say you also have the option of non-binary. I don't want everyone serving under that, but that's what they would do. You need to make note of this. The Texas legislature, after a decade of failed attempts, passed a bathroom bill this week. That's a conservative win. The Texas Women's Privacy Act restricts bathroom use in government buildings, schools, universities, according to sex assigned at birth. Fines of up to $125,000 for violations. So Texas and 18 other states have passed this, and there's been little public or corporate backlash. Why? Because they're beginning to realize you can't argue against that. And yet I shared with the audience in the last hour, and I'll share with you again briefly here, there's a piece in Politico about how the Democrats are worried about why are we no longer in control, how do we get back in? And one Democrat consultant says, you guys are a bunch of Ivy League grads, talking to a bunch of Ivy League grads. What you need to do is be more authentic, like maybe going to gun shows, local restaurants. Right now you have a bunch of Democrats very good at speaking a bunch of different languages. Human is not one of them. That's a point. So, class, what did you learn this hour? What did you learn over the week? Class will be back in session Monday. Be in your seats. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.